And okay. And then I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so most people are, so apologies. Well, good. Most people are here to hear from the panelists on their investment strategy and approach, and hopefully to meet some other like-minded investors. So I'm going to quickly share those results. And since we are all here, or most of us are here, either to hear from the panelists or all of the above, without further ado, I'm going to kick the panel discussion off. And I am going to ask Aysha to start off with introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about Future Females Invest and your investment journey.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Aysha Tegally. I'm the founder of Future Females Invest. We are an incubator and accelerator for female founders. And I'd like to say accidental intentional investors. Through our work in the incubation and acceleration space, we've seen that women don't get access to capital in the same way that their male counterparts do. And also what we've seen is the incredible impact that, investing in female founded businesses have on not only the woman, the founder, but also on the business. So the FFI Angels was basically set up to provide capital for female founders. And as part of that journey, and this is why we're accidental but intentional investors, is we've realized that not many women understand what angel investing is, but also more than that, generally how to invest for future wealth for themselves in different asset classes, etc. And I was definitely, and still am, one of those women that really don't understand the different kind of investment opportunities that are out there for women. And we've seen from our communities how having access to finance and being able to control where your finances go really enable you to build the future that you want for yourself and your family. So we have intentionally created the Future Females Invest Angel Network to invest in female founders, but also to unlock capital held by women so that it goes into female founders. We've all seen the abysmal statistics about the amount of VC and the amount of angel capital that flows to female founders. And the only way that we can change that is by having more women, putting money where their mouths are and writing these checks. So, we're on a journey to democratize access to capital for female founders and for women to take charge of their futures. So that's what we do at FFI Angels.
Thank you, Aysha. Great to have you here. Demi, lovely to have you here from Rising Tide Africa. And I know I've already seen that there are a number of other Rising Tide ladies in the audience tonight, which is fantastic. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for inviting me to participate in the panel. And yes, hi everyone. My name is Demi Edosomwam. I'm a member of Rising Tide Africa. It's a network of female angel investors. I think we're about 80 plus and going strong. And we're spread across Africa and the diaspora. And our focus really is to be able to dedicate our passion, our capital, and our support and networks to be able to support early stage startups that are creating a new Africa, as we put it. And really focus. So we as female angel investors think we see the opportunity to be able to create, to educate two ways. And so for us, we're also educating female investors, giving them that ability. I believe that, it's as it's often said that women will not take a step except if they feel that they're 110% qualified. And so we're trying to make sure that we channel that knowledge and information about investing in startups to women training our network of female investors to be able to then focus on investing in female-led startups. And so where we see ourselves really is the fact that we're trying to equalize or create, say, an equal playing ground. And so we know today from the figures, and it varies depending on who's studying who, but if I look at, for instance, the figures in the Partech report, which says last year only about 20% of the deals that were funded were led by females. And so what we're trying to do is to bring more of a balance towards this. And so as investors, we do invest not only in female-led startups, but we also generally invest also in male-led startups as well. But what we're trying to do is to create a more even balance. So today in our portfolio, it's roughly about 50-50. So we're well ahead of the curve, what you will see in the general proportion out there. So but for us, where we're looking to deliver value is investing in female-led startups, but also broadly as well in solutions as well that will improve the lives of women or that will increase equity as far as gender is concerned. And so, yeah, we today have an active portfolio of more than 20 companies, and I'm sure that there are quite a number of the members of Rising Tide Africa on this call. And it's a pleasure to be here once again.
Demi, thanks so much, and also great to have you and different perspective as well. Just before I hand over to Hema, apologies everyone, and I need to share the apologies from Aloho from First Check Africa. She unfortunately had something crop up at the last minute, an emergency, and she was not able to join us, but hopefully we're going to have her back to speak on another panel. But Hema, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm also going to stop sharing so that we can actually just move away from the slides and actually just have a discussion. So over to you, Hema.
Great, thanks Alex, and thank you for the opportunity to be here, and lovely to apart from Aysha and Demi. And it's so, in so many ways, it's so much of the same, but I think we just need more people who look and sound like us and playing in the space. So I love the work that you're doing with the Ancient Academy to be able to create that stepping stone. Yeah, so hi everybody, lots of familiar faces here, and it's always good to feel at home in the world we play in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hema Vallabh. I'm based out of South Africa, but currently calling out of New York. And my high level, I'm basically an engineer turned entrepreneur, now turned investor. I've played in the bigger gender parity space for the better part of the last 2 decades. First starting my nonprofit WomEng, supporting girls and women in engineering and largely around talent pipeline into that space, but then spun out of WomEng to start a company, WomHub. And WomHub today is a boutique incubator, accelerator, and actually the very first innovation hub in co-working space for female founders in STEM in Africa. And having done incredible work over the last 6-7 years developing female-led businesses and seeing just how much talent there is, and when given a chance, just how much potential, not just impact, but highly scalable, high growth businesses. There's just so much happening in this space, but just not enough capital being allocated to these women. And a large part of that, as we know, is because there just aren't enough women at investment decision-making tables. So whether it's angels, whether it's investment committee members, whether it's fund managers, that whole spectrum, we just need more women who are deciding where the capital goes. And it was with that in mind and sort of the organic, so serendipitous, organic, but also very intentional next step to my journey was to take a leap out of the space of, being an entrepreneur, but actually now raise my own fund. And that's where 535 Ventures was born. And for us, it really is all in the name. I guess the engineer in me went automatically to numbers. We know if we add more female entrepreneurs to the African ecosystem, we could see up to a 5% GDP uplift. And that's really by leveraging the 35% higher ROI that is normally achieved by diverse teams over all male-led teams if the playing field was level. So for us, that's really our mission, but also the opportunity. And 535 Ventures, so we're a seed stage fund. Our mandate is 100% female-focused, tech-enabled businesses across Africa. And for us, female-focused is measured against the 2X challenge, where we say it's either female co-owned, co-led, a largely female employment base, or an intentionally female consumer base. And, so this whole thing around, I guess because I've played in the bigger gender parity umbrella, I have now built the full ecosystem supporting women, but specifically women in tech in Africa. for me, it was obvious that I want to go deep. That's why it's a full gender lens. But we don't stop there. So with 535, not only are we 100% gender lens from the companies we're investing in, we're also a largely female team. But I've even taken it one step further. And I'm incredibly deliberate about getting more women on my cap table as LPs. This space has historically been, we think of the world of LPs that you have to be an ultra high net worth individual, and it's been this exclusive, closed space. And as someone, I think, the gentleman from Serengeti said, like him, I'm not a finance professional. And I had a bit of trepidation coming into the space of raising a fund, but I looked at my track record and what I am able to do. And I'm like, if I can learn it, I can upskill myself and play in the space, build an incredible team around me, then if I can do it, anyone else can as well. So at 535, what we've done is we've set up an initiative called the 35 Club, which significantly lowers the barriers for women investors, for first-time investors, for entrepreneurs who want to become investors to then participate in our fund as LPs. And the way I think about it, and for the audience in this room, being an LP into 535 is being more than an angel, but less than a fund manager. And if the LPs who come into 535 go on and raise their own funds, gender lens or otherwise, that is a mark of success for me. So yeah, just to wrap up where we are today, I'm very excited. So we just got started at the end of last year, have raised our first million and doing our first close on Thursday, actually, at the end of March. And of our first 15 investors, 12 are women. So that has just been an incredible measure of success that, when you create and you open up the space, people will come to the party.
Congrats, Hema. That's fantastic. And besides 535s, I'm also been privileged to know you through Dazzle Angel. So you've really got the whole breadth, which is fantastic, of experience. Demi, I'm gonna ask the question to you first. So Rising Tide Africa does not consider itself a gender lens investment fund, but and you've got an amazingly diverse portfolio, and you've got an amazing network of women who are part of your community and driving your investment activities. And how do you see the distinction as opposed to a fund such as Hema's, which has got a very clear gender mandate?
Yes, so I think that it really depends on the way that you look at it, because I wouldn't say that we are not genderless. We use a gender filter. I guess that will probably be the best way to frame it, is to say that we use a gender lens filter. So which means that we're intentional and we're quite deliberate in the way that we look at deal flow. And so it's something that we take into consideration, looking at the very first level. What is the composition of the team? Is it female-led? Is there a female co-lead? Is there strong female management on board? Or is the product or the service directed really at directly impacting the lives of women, or are females the main consumers? Having said that, so that is the first level which we apply and which we take into consideration when we're looking at investments. But we don't exclude an investment just because it doesn't meet any of those targets. And so for us, what is then important is that we're also able to bring our influence to bear. I've seen several cases where we've invested in a startup that maybe they start with two male co-founders, and then we're being quite intentional about the fact that, look, we would like to see more diversity, and so encouraging the team. And when I've gone back in some of my investments that I've made, and now you'll see there's much stronger diversity on the team. So for instance, we invested in a company called Eden Life a couple of years ago, and it was an all male male founding team. And so at the time we invested, I don't think there were any females, in the senior management. But they came back, a month ago to give us an investor update, and really they had parity in terms of the senior management, both male and female. So it's really about being deliberate and saying, look, how can we harness our own influence, our own power? Is it at the point of entry, or really at the point of guiding the startup and making sure that they have deliberate targets towards being able to incorporate more women on board? But having said that, look, we're seeing more and more that the deal flow exists. So today it's still really quite a mystery to me as to why we have such I would say disparity in the number of female startups that are being funded. I looked at our deal flow this year, and looking at already at the startups we've seen, we actually have a higher tilt towards female-led startups. And so it might be, a virtual circle where we're attracting the kind of deal flow that we would like to see to ourselves just because of the way that we view it. But ultimately, we're saying, look, we wouldn't exclude a deal just because it doesn't meet the criteria at the beginning. But we're saying, look, we could actively influence the way that business is run going forward in order to make sure that it's now more balanced, more gender balanced. And so it's fantastic if from the startup it is female led, but ultimately we're saying, look, that it's a filter for us as opposed to being, I will say, a deal breaker in terms of the way that we consider investments.
Demi, thanks for that. And I think that is something that's actually really useful, because there are many funds and angel groups in the ecosystem who would like to have a more diverse portfolio, but it's quite difficult to suddenly kind of completely change your investment thesis. And so having things like a gender filter, or using your influence to highlight why gender diversity is important, is critical. Because let's also not forget that, as an angel investors, we invest into these businesses and with the intention that those businesses will grow their team, have a really great, management team, and hopefully will go on to exit, and that those senior managers will then become the next generation of angels. So it's also just about, again, also, I think creating gender diversity at all the different levels, which is so critical. So Hema, I loved your stats, and I always love your stats. And, if anyone, I would also just really strongly encourage, if anyone is wanting to learn more about 535 Ventures, have a look at Hema's website. And if anyone's interested in the 35er Club, I'm sure Hema will also be willing to have a call with you and just chat through that as well. But you are very intentional about gender lens investing, and Aysha, you as well. Do you think it gives you a bit of a competitive advantage because so many people aren't focusing on female founded or co-founded deals?
Yeah, so maybe I shall kick off, and then you can absolutely plug on as well. But so it's yes and no, right? And I think, so I've worked in this space, I'm giving away my age here, but I've worked in this space for 2 decades almost, right? And when we started Women, we were doing women in engineering before it was sexy to do so. It started from our journey as a female engineer, seeing the disparity. And a lot of my journey since then has followed from that, right? I've built organizations based on the challenges I've faced and what I understand. And while I think it's a huge positive, it's only a good thing that there's so much more dialogue around gender lens investing, around leveling the playing field for women. 8th of March is Women's Day. We're in Women's Month this month, and you see it all over. And I think in that way, it's really good. And when you have so Aysha and I, for example, and there's many others out there who have a full gender lens, in that way, it's really, really positive, because like anything in life, if you want to have an impact, you have to go deep. The flip side of the conversation, I get this all the time, is, are you narrowing your focus? Why are you excluding men? There's different narratives that exist. And I've always said it has to be the and in both. So it's not about which is better. We need funds like 535, we need funds like First Tide, who are across the board, because it's also, and I'm watching my words carefully here, right? So I've played in a very deliberate gender space, but that doesn't mean women must sit on the table on the side. The reason why I chose to start 535 as a VC fund, not an impact fund, not an angel fund, as a VC fund, it was I too want to play at the big boys table. And I don't want anybody's charity. I don't want this to be a sideshow. And, until women are playing at the same table as men and we normalize that, the narratives aren't going to change. So while I've chosen to go deep, is because right now there's just not enough happening in this space. A fund like mine shouldn't exist. A fund like mine shouldn't be special. Like First Tide, we should be looking at deals across the board, and that's when it's 50-50 on that level. That's a measure of success. So I think strategic advantage, yes, because there's a lot of work to be done and a big push needed up front. But in the longer term, I really want this to be, again, not in a way, not a strategic advantage, but it's the know-how that we bring, rather, the ability to support female founders, the ability to, you know, grow these businesses post-investment. That should be the strategic advantage, because whether it should be equivalent to a sector advantage. Like if I'm investing, no one asks why you're only investing in fintech and not, you know, other sectors. So that's sort of where I want the advantage to be based on, as opposed to because it's a charity case.
Thanks. Aysha?
Yeah, and just to pick up from Hema's point, it's, you know, women aren't charity, it's not philanthropy, it's actually good business sense. And as you said, Hema's brilliant with the statistics. And, you know, we've seen that if, you know, you invest in a female founder, you invest in a community, and your returns are likely to be higher. Obviously, we can't guarantee that they're going to be higher. So just as with Hema, we exist, we set up to address a need that wasn't being addressed, a gap in the market that wasn't being serviced. Women make up 50% of the world, 2% of venture capital, and even less of that is angel capital flows to women. So in an ideal world, as Hema said, we shouldn't need to exist and have a specific gender focus. But at this point in time, we do. And, you know, I hope for a day that we don't have to exist and we can invest. Women are invested in at the same rate as their male counterparts.
Thanks. I'm going to jump. Okay. Hema, thanks. You're really active in the chat, but I wanted to also just bring this up. So we've got a question or a comment in the chat, which is, I find that the pool of founders' businesses that Angel Ventures have to select from is predominantly male. There seem to be more startups that are male founded than female founded. So Hema, you're saying, no, that's not true. So there are more businesses that across the continent that are female founded, but again, this access to capital, stage of business, pipeline, support programs, again, they aren't designed for women, they're designed predominantly for male teams. And, you know, how do we source businesses that are female founded? So if you are an angel and you're wanting to source more female founded businesses into your investment pipeline, what do you do?
Yeah, so let me, and sorry, I was typing, sorry, I maybe jumped the gun there in typing before the question was fully asked, but the second part of that, so yes, statistically, and I'll share some research afterwards, it's also now a deck, statistically, Africa does have more female founders than male founders, who are typically, but there's a big but here, so it's largely early stage businesses who are not, remember, startups don't all go the VC route, so women largely, and this is globally in fact, women more than men typically bootstrap their businesses. Women don't ask for capital early enough and they don't ask for enough capital, right? But there's reasons why that's so as well. So that's why we don't see them historically as visible as men, because, you know, I think someone mentioned the stat earlier, I'm not sure if it's just this conversation or one I had before this, where, you know, women typically will wait to tick 8, 9, or to 10 out of 10 criteria before, whether it's a job or asking for capital, whereas men, you know, if they can do 2 out of 10 criteria, they'll put themselves forward. So there are more female founders, they're just typically not as visible. But the second bit around where you find the pipeline is, this is why gender focused initiatives are important. So WomHub, my accelerator, for example, we run female only accelerator programs. And I'll give you a good example. And I think, Alex, you're involved in this work as well. So the Royal Academy of Engineering runs the Africa Prize for Engineering Innovation, right? It's the only engineering prize on the continent. And they've been doing this for about 8-9 years now. And in the first 5 years, they would put a call to action out of applications. And they would have something like 600 to 800 applications, but never more than a 5% to 10% female application rate. And we started working with them about 4 years ago to say, let's help you get more female applicants. Forget about anything else, just more female applicants. So we designed a pre-program called the Africa Innovation Fellowship, the exact same criteria to apply, except it was only open to women, and WomHub ran it, right? So a female focus accelerator ran it. In the first year alone, we got more than 6 times the applications that they had into the prize. For the very next year, they had upped the female application rate by 40%. And the very first female winner for the Africa Prize of Engineering Innovation came from the Womb Hub pipeline. And this is why when I start in the beginning, going deep is important in the beginning. From a woman's perspective, and again, I say this with caution, but typically women tend to apply for things easier, quicker. There's a whole self-worth journey to some extent where they think if they apply to a gender agnostic program, they're less likely to apply. But when there is something that's specifically tailored to women, we see a higher application rate. And that's stuff that's why we work with female founders. But it's not, the onus is not only on female founders, it's the industry needs to transform as well. We also released a report in 2019, just before COVID, around the state of female founders in Africa, and some of the reasons why women don't put themselves up for funding. There's various reasons that we talk about where do they go and the like, but also the level of sexual harassment that sometimes women face when applying for funding. And, you know, if you have to decide as a female founder, giving up a stake in the company means giving up a stake of your body. Are you actually going to do that? So I think there's a lot that's on the surface, and we talk about having female founders be more confident in all of those wonderful things, but let's also talk about the flip side and how we make it less abrasive for women to pitch at this level as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that's not often spoken about. It's kind of pushed under the table, but I think I've had a number of female, or no number of female founders who unfortunately have had very good businesses and have approached an angel investor who happens to be male and have had terrible experiences in terms of sexual harassment. So Hema, that was fantastic. But I think, you know, one thing that popped up when you were speaking, and also just in some of the comments as well, is intentionality. And I think also as angels, if we go to a demo day and there's one token female investor, I think, or one female led female co-founded business or opportunity, I think it's also our duty to go to the program and say, where are all your female founded businesses? It's not okay to have one token woman founded business, 1 out of 10, you know, and also getting people to be more deliberate about having gender diversity as kind of or having a gender filter. Demi, I'm going to use your words, when you are selecting startups to participate in programs, when you are selecting mentors, when you're selecting experts, when you're selecting speakers, and trying just to really normalize this, I think is so critical. In terms of, and I want to get down to the specifics. So sourcing, what are the very specific things, if you're talking to the angels in the community, what are the very specific and quite practical things do you think they can do in order to source or become maybe seen as a more attractive option to a female founded business? Aysha, I don't know if you want to jump in here.
Can you just repeat the question? Sorry, Alex.
So I just wanted to ask some of the kind of really practical tips. Like, so how do angels diversify their pipeline and actually see more female founded businesses and find them, and also maybe make themselves more or seen as a more viable option to female founded or founded businesses?
So I think they need to connect with other gender lens investors. So co-investment, deal sharing, I think that's one thing that we're really good at doing as women is collaborating, not competition. So it's kind of shifting the mindsets of VCs and other angel networks that actually, yes, we can share deals and together we're stronger. We've done a lot of co-invested deals because many of our angels are based in Mauritius, and, you know, doing DD can be a bit complicated when you're not in the same country as some of your investee companies. So actually, you know, co-investing is a really good opportunity, and it's a really great thing for angel investors to do, because a lot of the networks and syndicates are volunteer led, so it helps to kind of split that cost and share the load. It's speaking to experts like Demi from Rising Tide, yourself, from Dazzle, who are well known in the space for investing in female founders, so that we can collaborate and share deals. It's getting to know people like Hema and us, who are working with female founders on a day-to-day basis. So yes, there is a bit of work to do, because you do have to kind of put your head out there a bit more. It may not be like the traditional incubators, accelerators, or traditional routes that you may go down to look for deals, but it's you know, it's programming your mind to be intentional and to ask the questions. You know, when you see a founder, you ask, how many women are on your team? How many women are on your board? How many is there a female co-founder, and if so, does she have equity, and how much? Because we did see a couple of deals where they had a female co-founder, but she had no equity, and it was like, well, how could you be a co-founder with no equity? This makes no sense.
We've had one or two of those
as well. Yeah,
yep.
So it's just like there for the picture, for the diversity picture. So it's how meaningful is your engagement with women, and just being intentional about asking those questions.
Great. So quickly, Alex.
Yeah.
Just a very quick thought. So I couldn't emphasize more exactly what Aysha said around co-investment is so big, but like something like becoming LPs into funds, or working with funds who do the work for you and you tag along on the investments. That's really, really powerful. But the other thing in your last part of the question was, how do you become more attractive to a founder as a female angel? What we're seeing with 535,
or even as a male angel. So I think it goes both ways. So how do you get in front of the best female founded businesses or be attractive to them?
Yeah, and on that, and this is specifically for women though, what we found with 535, and it's been so interesting, even in my personal capacity, some investments I've done by myself, is that female founders actually want a gender lens investor or a gender lens angel on their cap table as well, right? We have found that given the value proposition, so as an angel, by definition, you're not just giving capital, you're giving other strategic resources, whether it's, advisory or otherwise. But as women too, typically add a different type of value, and it's not about better or worse than men, but diversity by definition is looking through the world through different lenses. But we have found with 535, for example, female founders are willing to wait to extend rounds because they're waiting for us. They're offering us significantly more attractive valuations because they want us on their cap table. And for example, we've done about 9 investments already. We're doing our 10th in this coming week. And on one of our early investments, we were the smallest investor on a $1.2 million round. This was in April last year. And over the last 6 months, the founder, and we're the only female investor. And they were like, you've added more value to us than any of our bigger investors. So knowing your worth as an angel, and I think female founders are incredibly seeking more gender lens investors as well, because it's a mutual win and a mutual play, right? So I think as an angel, especially getting in front of the deals, but knowing that the value you add as a female angel is absolutely being sought after.
Thanks, Hema. I think, one of the things that we are very proud of at the African Angel Academy is that 50% of all our participants have been women. And I can tell you without hesitation that the quality of the female applicants for angels that we have received has been absolutely phenomenal, and we've been incredibly fortunate to have some really incredible female angels participate. But how do we as an angel community kind of make that the norm within kind of more angel groups, so it's not just women angels starting kind of women only groups, but how do we as angels encourage and really reach out to more potential angels who are women and encourage them to join networks? I don't know if you've got any views in terms of that space as well.
Well, I mean, being an AAA alumni myself, I think it's really about getting the information out there. I think for women tend to be quite pragmatic investors. They only invest in asset classes that they understand. And so if women don't have knowledge about how to do angel investments, there's that trepidation about, oh, I don't even understand. How can I add value? And that's a sentiment that has been expressed, not even just by women, but even by, even one of the male participants as well. And so I think it's important to provide more and more fora like this, where women are able to learn the fundamentals of angel investing, because once they have that knowledge, then they become more willing to be able to invest in that asset class. So I think also then there's an element of evangelization as well, telling other women. I don't stop telling other women, I'm part of Rising Tide Africa, and I don't ask them to necessarily join RTA. I just say, look, it's a fantastic way to diversify your income, to be able to put your money in other asset classes, and you really do get to give back. The fact that angel investing is more than putting in capital. You're able to actually do good, with your money. You're able to bring your influence, your networks, your knowledge to be able to help the company, to build the company. And I think that this is something that women do naturally, we nurture. And so I believe that it's really great. It's really suited to our temperament. It's just that a lot of women are just not even aware of that asset class existing. But I think with the shifts in the economy, with, inflation, and with, interest rates not being all that, typically women would just have put their money in treasury bills, or commercial papers, the likes. But now that I think a lot more women are looking, how can I diversify, my income? How can I also, make sure that I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket? So I think this is a fantastic time to attract more professional women in there, knowing that they're not just going to put in money, but they're also potentially going to put in their time, their resources, their network. And so far, I think most of the women I've told them, like, yeah, tell me, how do I go about it? So I believe if we have education and we have more and more women talking about it, I believe that that's a way to create a greater mass of women investing in venture capital.
Thank you, Demi. Aysha, I don't know if you've got any thoughts as well. How have you found attracting more women to your network?
So it's been a journey. It's been really interesting, and some of the women who are in our angel network have actually taken part in the AAA program. But I think it's, as Demi said, it's building that network of trust. Women want to feel safe and they want to feel part of something. And with building FFI Angels, Rising Tide is one of the biggest angel networks of women across Africa, in Africa. So we've learned a lot from them, because it's about creating a sense of community and a sense of space and a place of responsibility as well. So we've created our network through our network. So it's women who believe in women, it's women who want to invest in women. It's a lot of the angels are also mentors, or experts in our incubator and accelerator. So we've gone for the early adopters, if you like, in accelerator speak. But I believe that everybody has a friend. So we have had people who haven't ever invested before, but how we've done that is we positioned one of our deals that we had. They could join the vehicle with a $500 ticket, for example. So it was an easy, less risky opportunity. So just as Hema is doing with the 535 and doing a lower LP ticket, we've gone really, really low. But just to enable the women to be able to understand the process of investing, and that investment was actually into a real woman's product. It was B-Girl, the period underwear. So it was a product that women are naturally passionate about. We didn't have very men. I think there weren't any men, I don't think, in that deal. I'll have to double check, but very, very few. It was majority women in that deal, because it was a product for women, by women, and a really overlooked space. So I think by having the right deals that speak to women and tick those boxes, and by making it as easy as possible.
Thanks. I want to move to the audience because we've had a couple of questions and comments in the chat as well. So please, for those of you in the audience, please feel free to raise your hand, ask a question directly to the panel, pop something in the chat. Ropa from Queza, which is a female-founded startup, and full disclosure, part of the Dazzle portfolio. So Ropa, lovely to have you here as well. She really talks about how, Hema, you've gone deep, but she fears that the gap is so large it might take a long time to close it. And a lot of these incredibly important conversations are held in rooms where it's predominantly female. And is there more to be done in bringing diverse VC and angel funds into the conversation, and I suppose in the mainstream, so that this process is accelerated? And I think that's a very valid point. Often these are kind of sidelined conversations.
100%, and more than sideline conversations, I think that sometimes we tend to talk in our echo chambers, right? So by virtue of everyone attending, I think this is a fantastic session, and like I said, this dialogue is so important. But with three female fund managers or investors, we're talking about a gender lens conversation, and I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm assuming if we look at the participant list, the room is full of largely women, which is fantastic, right? But for me, a measure of success is when you have a gender lens investing conversation and there are also men in the room. So yes, with 535, we set 35 club, and I'm really proud that more than 80% of our early investors are women. The reality is right now where the capital lies, I'm not going to get to $30 million by small checks and only women investors. Men have to be part of this conversation. Gender lens investing in female-led startups is not a woman problem. It's also not a woman opportunity, right? Everybody can leverage the opportunities. It's not, again, just charity. There's returns to be had. And I think human nature, someone also put the comment around the way we ask questions differently to men and women, this idea of disassociative questioning, right? So as humans, there's a lot of unconscious bias. If we see a panel event and you only see female speakers, there's an assumption that it must be a women's event. But have you ever had that thought when you saw a panel with only men and thinking, oh, as a woman, I shouldn't be attending this event? No, right? So we have to start having joint conversations, and it's an and in both. So absolutely going deep, but also going wide. It's not an either or, it's an and in both.
I'm really pleased to see that we're getting some authentic New York sounds in the background there, Hema. We've got a hand up from one of our audience participants, and is it Ayong? If you'd like to just ask your question. And then men. Sorry.
Can I go?
Yes, please do.
Okay, it's Ayage. Thank you. Thanks to the panelists, and thanks, Alex, for this. Thanks, Hema, for your comments earlier. I mean, my own personal experience, really, I've just done maybe a few deals in my personal capacity, but I know that even in my own sphere with friends and people around me, I've had a number of men come asking for, partnership, investment, or whatever it is. But I've only had one woman out of, I don't know, maybe 7, thereabouts, So I know that may not project, the bigger picture. But I know that that's many women's story, that even when you do want to invest, you don't really find many females coming up and making those requests. But thanks to your perspective, it's good to see it from a bigger picture. My question is really to all three of you, what you're doing at your networks. I want to know if at any point you have done, an assessment based on the productivity or the effectiveness of the businesses based on gender. Do you find any interesting insights? I know that's general. There are many other factors that affect, how well a business does. But do you find that female-led are, do better, for whatever reason? Because I did see a report sometime by BCG, and it did mention, I don't remember the figures, but it was something like, for women-led businesses, you had, the dollar, they made more for every $1, in terms of profitability. I don't know if I imagine there are other things that affect that assessment, but what do you find in the businesses that you're invested in? Just to be sure that the question is clear.
Apologies.
I think so. Yeah, maybe I could just give a quick shot to answer the question in terms of what we are seeing. So like I said, maybe just first of all to the main point about the proportion of women that are able to get funding. I would say I think you attract once you have that reputation, you start to attract the right deal flow. And so for us at Rising Tide this year, more than 60% of the startups that have come to us, that have approached us, have actually been female-led or co-led. So I think at some point in time, when you get that reputation, you start to see the right deal flow. So it's really for women being able to then know who are those investors that are willing to support other women. And then to the fact that, do we see a difference? I believe that, yeah, there's been lots of all those studies about how women do better. But I think on the practical level, one of the things that we've seen is that women do tend to bootstrap for longer. And so while the guys can come out once they have an idea and they're 2 months or 3 months into the idea, you tend to see that more of the female founders actually already have more traction. They've raised money either from family and friends, or even just used their own resources to build up the business onto a more stable level. And so they probably might already have revenues. I've seen a female-led startup that was actually a EBITDA positive already before they were raising their seed round. And so of course that means there's a huge discount on the valuation because they're still priced as an early stage startup. But while their male peers at that point probably maybe were already raising a Series A at a priced round, which was maybe 4 times that valuation, they were coming in at a seed and typically then will be priced at maybe a max of a $5 million valuation. And so it's something to bear in mind that also already gives you more room potentially as an investor for returns, because if they're already coming in where, the product is proven, they already have a market fit, and they're already there, and you're coming in at that low valuation. So you do have that assurance that by the time that you have more of a guarantee that by the time that you're exiting, you probably would have interesting multiples because you've come in at I would say what is a lower multiple than you would have if they had raised funds earlier. I think another thing that we are seeing as well is the resilience for the female founders, really out there, look, they have a point to make, I believe. And I think it's the same whether in career or in business, that women have a point to make. And so you do tend to see them, working harder, just trying to deliver, to make sure, that they deliver to their investors, make sure they don't let down their teams as well. So they don't want to see that business fail. So I think that you can see that attitude that we've got to make it work. But I would say also in the converse is that there's a lot of that, I would say that humility, and therefore they're not pricing their businesses like they should ordinarily. So they do tend to give more of a discount than you would see for male-led startups. So I would say that, those are the kind of things that we're seeing on a practical level. But at this point in time, I would say we don't have enough data on exits to be able to say that clearly there's a clear difference between how female-led startups are performing compared to male-led startups.
And thanks, Demi. That's really good. I would also just love to hear from some of the men in our audience. And Hema, you are right. There are not as many men, but we do have some men. So Stephen, David, Robert, I was just having a look at the list of men. Amit had to sadly leave. But some of the men in the room, Fola, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear your opinions, and also, again, how do we keep not having just a gender lens investment or women in kind of investment discussion kind of in a separate room with just the women? How do we actually really make this part of the main stage?
I think we need to have more men discussing things like this. We need to have Hema's fund manager is a man on 535. We also have some men in our network who are investing in female founded businesses. So it's also giving men a chance to speak up and talk about why it's important to invest in women. We've got some great male mentors and experts on our program. So it's normalizing this discussion, and it's also maybe asking those difficult questions to men. Well, not difficult questions, it's just asking the question, why are you not investing in women? Like, you know, and there was a comment in the chat that men ask men more opportunistic questions that are open for positive answers, whereas women are often asked more pessimistic, preventative questions, as in, you know, why can't this be done, and leading to more negative answers. So how about we coach and mentor some of these men to invest in women and see the opportunity? So yeah, I think it's positioning it as a normal thing to do and the right thing to do, and as the good business opportunity that it is.
Thanks, Masecha. I thought that was a great link. I don't know, there was a gentleman who turned his camera on. Stephen, would you like to jump in again?
Oh, okay, Alexandra, thank you so much for the opportunity that you have given me. I do not know if I got your question correctly, but I'll maybe give you a little bit of my experience with women founders. I'm a startup founder myself. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. And apart from my logistics business, I invested in setting up an incubator in Zambia, in Lusaka, Zambia. And we are in the process right now of setting up Zambia's first accelerator that takes equity in startups, and we are actually targeting 50% women-owned enterprises for the very first cohort that we are preparing for. But my experience since we started with the hub in 2019, our hub is the three of us, the co-founders. We are men, and we've been having difficulties connecting with female founders. There is a hub that is led by a female, like the female CEO. They give us updates. We collaborate with them. They tell us when they advertise for some of their incubation programs, they are seeking maybe 100 applicants only. They get maybe 2,000 or 3,000 applicants. We go out. We are also encouraging female founders to participate. The highest we have had is 23% in terms of the response, and very low in terms of the numbers. So my experience has been that it's like there's an element of mistrust between the female founders, for them to participate in like in programs that are being championed by male. If you're managing a program, we have invested in a few female-owned startups, but at the end, it has led to frustration, especially on my part. When you're putting in your money, you're trying to get a project off the ground, and you're trying to push, the same way you do when you're pushing guys. Guys have to let's do this, push. The guys, the way they respond to it and the way the ladies respond to it somehow left me discouraged. And so we thought, as a team, now that we are about to set up this accelerator, let's identify from the community some ladies, some women who have been, collaborating with us, volunteering, being mentors in some of the programs that we've been running. Let them be co-founders in this accelerator. The managing director is a female, and we want to see how the response is going to be now, where they'll be seeing that actually it's fellow women who are in the forefront saying, guys, come, we work with you. So there's that. For me, I'm trying to figure out how can we connect with is it like an element that maybe the men, they have maybe ulterior motives, I'm not sure really how to. So that's my experience. I don't know if I responded to your question. That's my experience with female founders in our ecosystem. They don't get close. No matter how much you want them to come close so that you can support them, it seems like they are more comfortable participating where the organization that is bringing the opportunity is led by a woman. Yeah.
So Stephen, I think thanks for being very honest and open. I think that's great. I think in a way in your discussion you answered some of the things. So I think really do bring on more female facilitators. Make sure that there are women in your selection panel. Make sure that you feature women in some of your marketing material, that you have female mentors, that you have female guest speakers. And I think that's that when you are recruiting, you even use some examples of your past women participants to really help recruit other women. And just kind of be open to learning and, and also bringing on partners for the next phase in your journey. But I think your intention is there. And many of the things you've mentioned, I don't know if the panel would agree, would be to kind of try those things and keep going on this journey.
One thing that I would add as well is think about the timing of your programs. A lot of women have family responsibilities, and with COVID, a lot of women were given extra responsibility in the home of being teachers, cooks, and everything. So really think about the times that your programs run. Do you need to run them during school hours? Do you need to avoid these late evening after work kind of networking where mothers may need to get childcare or do things at home? So really, really, be intentional about your programming and the timings.
Okay.
Thanks, Aysha. That's a great choice. Robert, I'm going to give you the last question before we do a quick wrap up or comment.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of a comment. Thank you. I mean, to your question, and maybe just to reiterate about giving a chance for men to kind of speak about why they're doing it. Because, yeah, I mean, there's a few men advocates or men that get this and understand that it's just smart investing and smart business. But yeah, giving men a chance to speak alongside women, I think, is important. And so that you're continuing to just bring the evidence forward that we're starting to see more and more, is just when you have diverse teams and have women leadership, you're having more successful ventures. It's just, smart business. So, starting to have that narrative that it's a cross-cutting issue. It's just a smart business issue. And like, let's start to kind of have that narrative to help normalize this.
Thank you. That's a really valid point, and also great to have that just have someone else say what I think many of us are thinking as well. Everyone, I am going to ask our panelists. So first of all, a huge thank you to our panelists, and it's been really fantastic to have this conversation. And there's been some fantastic resources in the chat. Hema, you've been great. Thank you for also putting some resources specifically around the 2X challenge. There's some nice webinars and other resources, so please do check out the chat and take note of some of the links. I'd just like, as a closing comment from our panel, just one tip. Something small and practical that we can all do just to kind of really make the shift and hopefully see some stats change. So Aysha, I'm going to start with you, going alphabetically.
The joys of having an A name. So women, a good business sense, not philanthropy or charity, invest in women and join an angel network if you're a man or a woman.
Thanks, Aysha. Demi, over to you.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about questions today, and just to also put out the fact that unconscious bias exists not just from male investors, but also from female investors as well. So let's just be really conscious about the kind of questions that we ask. You know, I think Aysha mentioned the fact that women are asked more preventive questions. And so rather than asking them, how would you defend your market share? Or how would you make sure, just asking questions in a negative manner, it's worthwhile thinking, about asking, more positive questions about, for instance, how are you going to monetize that, or how are you going to create value? And so just being conscious of that. And also the same as well for female entrepreneurs as well, that even if you are asked a negative question or a preventive question, you can rephrase it. So if someone is asking you, how would you make sure that you don't lose market share? How about talking about your plans to gain market share? How about talking about the new market lines, your new strategy? And so you answer the question, but you rephrase it, because that has been shown to make sure that you're able to secure funding as opposed to answering preventive questions. So it's really about knowledge that unconscious bias exists, but it's not just for males. And if we're all aware, we could actually increase the number of women that are getting access to funding.
Thanks, Demi. I love that. Hema?
I guess for me, there's a saying that says, when you don't know what to do what you know. Or my adaptation of that is to work with people who know what they're doing, right? So you don't have to figure this out by yourself. My tip, and I guess invite thereof for me personally, is use me, right? So I am here, and as I've been very deliberate about on my journey, when I go into new spaces, is taking people along with me. Aysha already mentioned this, building community is so important. So join a community, join an angel syndicate. That mine, Aysha's, Demi's, anybody's, but go along with others who are playing in this space. In my case, I'm willing to handhold anybody's a first-time investor, anybody who's new to this space. You need a safe space to ask the questions, but you have to ask the questions. It has to come from you. So I guess the invite and the tip is get active, get started.
Thanks, Hema. I think there's some great practical tips there as well. And I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. So just a quick reminder to everyone, we've got some fantastic case studies on our African Angel Academy website under the resources section. And this is one that, while we have featured women in other case studies as well, this is one that's just been released, and it's a case study with Lauren Cochran from she was with Blue Haven Initiative when we did the case study, and she did lead the Paystack investment, and then Maya as well from Ingressive Capital. And so also just to visit our website and have a look at our case study. So we've got 2 on Paystack, 1 on Sweep South, and 1 on Twigger Foods, and hopefully we'll have some more case studies soon. And then just a quick reminder as well,